I'm Wendy, and welcome. I'm really excited to share with you the three-core body mapping perspective, which I now call the three-core connections perspective, which is a body of work that has grown me for 40 years. It's so much more than an exercise technique. It's an inquiry into how we can know ourselves on a deeper level, and also how do we cultivate a refined awareness of ourselves as deeply intelligent human beings, very different than seeing ourselves as objects to be trained and fixed. So this is a whole body anatomy, a living anatomy, rather than looking from pieces and parts, dissective anatomy. Really, really distinct. But first, we have to get in touch with gravity as a partner. How do we discover our relationship with gravity, which then allows us to find our an ease, an effort with ease in our movement, and so much more awareness in our daily activities, and how we become self-healing. So let me tell you a little bit about my story and how this was all built, so we can share it together. These wonderful posters are 18th century anatomy by Albinus, and what I'm doing is I'm bringing them forward into the 21st century, and so we can study ourselves on a deeper level, and also look at how we're gesturing in the way that we study ourselves rather than static anatomy. So I'll say a little more about this in just a second. When I came to Pilates in the early 90s, I had the opportunity to study with first-generation teacher Romana Krzyzanowska at the Pilates Center in Boulder when they were first opening. It was just an incredible opportunity. And at that time, I was a long-time holistic coach and yoga teacher, and I decided to stop doing yoga and only do Pilates for many years, several years. I did that, and it was in that time that we moved to Austin. I established the Pilates Center of Austin as the first Pilates studio in Austin. But it was in that time also that I began to feel very held. And I didn't really have words for it at the time, but what I began to inquire into is, rather than a concept of core, what is the body's experience of core? What is core from the body's perspective? And that inquiry took me to great somatic teachers, pioneers in the field of body-mind centering, Alexander work, continuum, Aston patterning. And as I studied, and also structural integration, as I studied, I began to see that core from the body's perspective begins with vestibular awareness. How do we relate to gravity? So that's what the yellow is on this particular poster, is how do we energize through our hands and feet? How does the inner ear, and we'll look at this more over time, how does the inner ear, how is that our first sensory awareness, the first sense that wakens in the womb? And how does that allow me to sense and orient to where I am, which begins to wake up a whole new perceptual way of being? So inner ear and soft eyes, these are all things we look at over time. So phenomenal. That gives us our three-dimensional body. From vestibular awareness, we looked at how does the orientation of relationship to gravity, which I'm calling down the back, the waterfall of the multifidus, the inferior angle of the shoulder blade, sit bone, tailbone, into the tripod of the foot, how does that create a natural rebound up the front? Inner ankle, inner thigh, internal belly along the front of the pelvic floor, along the front of the spine, to the inner ear. And how do they work together in relationship to give us an effort with ease, what I discovered when I said I was feeling really held initially when I looked at the relationship between my Pilates practice and what I'd felt in my yoga practice was I was actually overstabilizing. And what I call that now is putting on the parking brake. How do we over-harness, grip our abdominals, rather than allowing a dynamic way of being with ourselves? How does the breath naturally occur? How does that feed a dynamic way of being with movement? How does the foot meet the ground in a way that we sense the lateral support as balance and the midfoot as weight shift? And this gets deeper and deeper. How are we lifting through the domes of the body? The lift of the inner arch, the lift of the pelvic floor, the lift of the respiratory diaphragm, the lift of the thoracic outlet. How do we open the armpit? How does the inner ear palate create lift? How do I find the release of the down of my shoulder blades through my feet, which gives me natural uplift? And how does that way of being shift the way I receive and perceive myself, other people, my environment, and be in a way that what we're calling core as relationship with gravity, ourselves, one another, and our environment. So how does core become a dynamic way of being in the world, which is really what tensegrity is all about, a cellular awareness, a way of being with ourselves that is dynamic, that's seeing everything. What do we mean by everything is connected to everything else? We use that language, but often we don't really cue that way. We don't speak that way as we're working with clients, as far as teachers. So there's a huge opportunity that we have to study ourselves as living human beings. And I ran a teacher training program for 10 years, and that was a lot of the focus. This was 1996 to 2006. And that experience, I felt very, very complete with that, and feel that now the opportunity that I have is to mentor, to really be with teachers in a powerful way, not in a way to tell you how it is. The core connections, the three core connections of lower core from foot to pelvis, central core, pelvic floor to respiratory diaphragm, upper core, diaphragm to cranial base, palate. How do these, there's not three cores in the body any more than there are lines in the body. The three cores is a way that we can wrap our heads around the gravity centers of the body and how they all relate to one another. So the opportunity that we have here is to really be together in a dynamic way. Once again, this isn't a belief system, it's an inquiry. And the focus is you, rather than me. The focus is you as the expert, your body as the expert. That's what we learn. We learn how to listen, how to pay attention, how to really cultivate a deep listening within ourselves. This is how we become self-healing. And this is a phenomenal gift that we give ourselves, our clients, our families, and that we have to really cultivate Joseph Pilates' vision in the world of how do we create health, a healthier, happier humanity. So I invite you to come and study, collaborate, and let's just together have fun and just keep building this incredible body of work. What I know, bottom line, what I know is the body doesn't care, really, whether we call it Pilates, yoga, Alexander, Feldenkrais, structural integration, washing the dishes. it doesn't care. What it cares about is, are we moving with awareness? Are we related to gravity? And then there's self-healing, there's just a completely renewable sense that we have in being in our bodies. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you. Bye.